Hey, Sheepdogs. Welcome to the Sheepdog Project. Doc here. Tim is not sitting next to me today. Tim is out and about spreading the sheepdog gospel, doing great things, taking that knowledge out to the streets. But I cannot go without a wingman, so I have called over to the bullpen, and with me today is Green Beret, survival expert, television personality, all around sheepdog, and all around Renaissance man, Mr. Michael Hawk. How are you, my brother?
Booyah, man. Doing good. Thanks for having me.
So awesome to have you here. It's been a long time coming. We've tried to make this work for a while. Finally got the schedules together. So glad you could come on the Sheepdog Project and share your knowledge with all of our listeners. I know they're out there eagerly with legal notepads ready to just lap this up, anything we talk about. So you know my audience, man. I mean, that's them. These guys are legit. They are taking notes with one hand and they are googling stuff with the other. You name a product and watch that product get 50 hits like immediately. That's really how our audience is. So
Well, I mean, look at who's running the podcast. I mean, dude, you're like a proper doctor and like badass Green Beret, Ranger guy, done everything too. So, and Tim is the same. So, you get the kind of people that you guys are coming to you. You know they're going to be proper. So, and I'm sorry that Tim was really intimidated by me being here, and that's really good thing he's not near to kick my ass. So we're all good.
Well, he's geographically he's actually closer to you than he is to me right now. So, but he's actively engaged and busy, so I don't think you have anything to worry about. But we will have you on again. We definitely want to have you on again. We definitely want to have you in the studio where we can all sit around, especially once we start putting these out as YouTube videos and stuff. So we'll definitely do something. I've been trying to get you out to Texas for a while, so we'll make that happen.
Man, I was just out there, dude. I was doing some teaching some spy game stuff, just fun stuff.
Yeah.
'Cause that's just a sidebar. I kind of got started in TV over 20 years ago because after Desert Storm, all my brothers were teaching, killing and shooting and stabbing and fighting. And I was like, man, nobody's out there teaching just leadership and survival and fun and adventure. And I'm really glad to see the Green Beret brothers out there doing well with things like Go Ruck and Spartan Race and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we're just a little bit ahead. But the point being, that I was doing all this stuff in adventure realm and leaving, and bringing my real expert brothers as shooters and whatnot when I needed that expertise. And so I was just teaching spy games in Austin just a couple of weeks ago, having a good time. So yeah, I get to Texas all the time, brother. I love Texas. I love what Texans are all about, man. I mean, if there's ever going to be a problem in the States, those guys are going to be the Republic of. So
yeah.
Texas,
Well,
I'll be there, man. We'll be doing something.
And I've got the Ranger Up T-shirt. Texas, it is America's Sparta. It really is.
I have to agree with that. You know what I got to say, man? Now that I've been hanging out in Florida, because I think New Orleans is America's party place, and I think, man, Florida is just America's go have fun in the sun place.
Yeah. And I love Florida. That's I spent some time in 20th Group. I lived in Georgia at the time, made a lot of trips down there. So I absolutely love Florida. But there's just no replacement for my Texas at this point in my life. So
hear that, man. Hear that.
Yeah.
So that said, yeah, we definitely got to get together when you guys get up on the video and whatnot, and do some of them get together things.
Yeah.
That's just, you get such good energy and plus really good information. So
yeah,
awesome.
And we'll get Shepard out here too, because he's been dying to, and he's been promising me. But like you, like me, like Tim, like all the rest of us, he's so damn busy. So trying to marry up all these schedules, like doing an in-flight refueling.
See, now that's a proper military thing, because I say getting Green Berets together is like herding cats, but in-flight refueling is better.
Yeah.
It's cooler. But yeah, Shap's doing some kick-ass stuff with his new show channel, man. That whole Hollywood weapons thing is it's the best of everything, movies and guns, right?
Coming out the first part of April, looks really awesome. He's going to do everything from a recreation of Captain Kirk's bamboo cannon to kill the Gorn, to whether or not you could actually have blown a shark's head off by shooting an air tank, the whole 9 yards. So every recreation. So good plug for the Shap, because he deserves it. He works hard, and he's going to have an awesome show coming out.
Yeah, awesome. So, yeah, speaking of, man, so, what's going on with you and Tim and your media stuff, may I ask?
Well, that's the question. We get asked that a lot. I get asked that on social media. I do not know how often. And All I can say to you, brother, all I can say to everybody is I'm not. Neither Tim nor I are going to be the ones who are allowed to make that announcement if we do in fact get a third season. So, Tim and I are hopeful. We know that there's plenty of information out there to pursue. That if they did give us the green light, if they do give us a green light for a third season, there's plenty left to explore. But right now we're just waiting to see. So, and
Well,
we've got some other irons in the fire too.
yeah. I mean, the bottom line is you did 2 good seasons. It was good stuff. And if there's a third season, great. And if not, there'll just be more doors opening as those close. So either way, you guys will be rock and rolling. So that's good.
Yeah, we've got some other ideas. We pitched some other ideas and had some other ideas pitched to us. So, yeah, we're hoping to do something. I'd like at some point to get the whole Green Beret family together and just do one big cross pollination where all of us are involved in something. I just think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I would love that, man. I've been working with a big movie guy for about 15 years now, since 9/11. He's been trying to make a movie specifically about Green Berets. And, I think it would be just really kick-ass if we kind of, match the SEALs with their act of valor and kind of had a movie about our guys with our guys. But, that's just me,
Well, I've always thought that the basic storyline of the original John Wayne movie could be remade with an Afghanistan backdrop. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the absolute whole FID-UW thing, because there's that's what so many people don't know. We've been doing door kicking a lot for the last, decade plus. But, our bread and butter and what sets us apart from the other guys is our work with the people. And so I think, you said just redoing that, showing what our actual roles are, I think would be a great thing for the heroes that are out there still fighting, the guys who have done the fighting. And hopefully to recruit the next generation, because frankly, we recruit a different cut of cloth than the Navy SEALs. Sorry.
It is different. It is, it's apples and oranges. That's when people ask me, well, what's better? Are they, well, it's what's better? A ribeye steak or a great piece of swordfish? I mean, it's it's apples and oranges. And of course, we're the ribeye steak, and they're the swordfish.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a pretty good little analogy there. So, but the thing about steak is, it lasts a long time, and you can turn it into tartar or beef jerky, but fish goes off real fast.
Yeah, and you get mercury poison and all the other problems. So,
yeah,
and you don't want to deal with that.
We're tracking, brother. We're tracking.
Good stuff. Well, hopefully, and they're making the Horse Soldiers movie. That's in the works right now.
No, didn't that just come out, man? I think it's
Is it in pre-release? I know, because one of the Hemsworths
the early
right?
years. Yeah, and it, man, I could be wrong, but there's both movies, the Horse Soldiers as well as The Only Thing Worth Dying For. Basically the two early teams that were the first guys to come into the stand from the top and the bottom, and apparently they're both getting really good reviews from the critics. So that's fantastic stuff all the way around. So yeah. Glad to see the brothers finally out there, because I got to remind people all the time, especially our own guys. It's like, look, dude, our moniker is quiet professionals. It's not silent professionals.
Exactly.
We're so top secret that we don't exist. We are public, and there's no way to tell America about her great sons and their great deeds without some talk, not bragging, just saying, hey, these are facts. And also, man, one day we all got to pass the torch to the younger generation, and we want to get the best kids, so we got to let them know what it is that their predecessors have done, so they can come and fill our boots.
Sure, absolutely, and that's. You and I have had the same conversation with a couple of individuals from our brethren that you and I were involved in through social media and other means, that people bagging on the whole the public persona thing. Putting this forward, putting that forward. The comment that gets made, well, we're no better than the SEALs. Well, first of all, like you said, we got to pass that torch, and you and I are both aware of. There are a couple of organizations out there that are so quiet in their quiet professionalism, so silent in their silent professionalism, that they do have a problem recruiting, because nobody knows what the hell they do. And it's like, well, how do I know if I'm interested in it if I don't know what the hell you do?
Right.
And we can't be that way. It's all about, you don't want to be standing on the roof of a car on 6th Street beating your chest, yelling quiet professionals. and trying to draw people to your cause, because that's not the way to do it. But we do need to be forthcoming about the great things that we've done, so that those things can continue to happen in the next military generation. I agree with you 100% on that.
Well, absolutely, and just since we kind of gone in a different direction, I'll just kind of keep going down this path for just a minute, and then we'll circle back on kind of what your original topic intent was, which was more survival stuff.
Sure.
But the thing is, like, I've been at this a long time, like a quarter of a century, and I had a 5-year break in service to do some contracting too. And what people don't realize is when the Green Berets go out there to do a job, we consider a job well done. When we go, we do what we got to do. We leave. No one knows we're there. Someone else gets credit for it. But sooner or later, that does come out to the public that we were involved, and that's the way we prefer it. I'm sure you've seen that very funny commercial on YouTube about the Navy SEAL that goes in the bar and right after the colonel briefs him, "Don't talk."
Yeah,
you're killing Osama.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's brilliant. And so, our guys are definitely not like that. And I think whatever our old timers are that are complaining about the violation of the quiet professional standard as they considered, they come from a different generation. It's like, hey, man, social media, intelligence, information is out there. And it's important that we have some true factual information that is out there and actually represents well. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, a lot of people don't know, and all the media stuff that I've done, I've turned down so many jobs, and I've told so many executives to go pound sand because they've asked me to do stupid stuff. And I'm like, look, and I get media and I get entertainment, but it's like I have chosen to hold myself accountable to a standard that if I can't look my Green Beret brothers in the eye and say I can stand by this, then I won't do it. I won't violate a principle, and I won't compromise OPSEC. And I've kind of chosen to live by that, and I've been very happy to say that I have live by that. And so I'm proud of all my things, even when I did stuff with Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie, So the whole thing is, from the SF training, the big thing that we teach guys is you can break rules, but you can't violate principles, and that's what it's all about. So anyway, that's enough on that, I think, from me.
Yeah, and that's that's a litmus test that I use and Tim uses as well, and I think it's a great way to approach it. Let's talk about, like you said, let's talk about survival. That's You are a man of many talents, but that's when I think about the one thing that's undeniably your lane, that's what I think about. What can you say to the sheepdogs that are out there going about their daily business? And we're not talking about, most people don't expect living in their urban or their suburban areas to be suddenly dropped off in the jungle somewhere, like the show Alone or something like that. But just basic survival stuff. What if there is a natural disaster? What if I get stuck at the workplace, stuck on I-95 somewhere? What are basic things that you go by philosophically, and also things that you carry to approach day-to-day survival?
Well, we're all special ops guys, so we all know that preparation is a big part of it, training is a big part of it, and your equipment. The more you have, the easier things are, and then we start stripping down so that we can still do what we got to do even when we have nothing. Mm-hmm. So that said, you've started with all the right things. You got to ask the question: what happens if something goes down at work? What could go wrong where I live? Are you working overseas? Are you working up in the north where it could get cold, or down in the south where you could get a hurricane, or on the west where you could get a fire, or somewhere in the middle where you could get a flood? So, you start asking the questions. If these things happen, whether it's a terrorist thing or a disaster thing, where am I going to be in my home, in my car, in my work, in places that I frequent, and also who are the people that are under your care, being sheepdogs. And that's the big thing I tell guys. It's like, in the same principles, like I went through in 86, okay, the first time through the Q course, and I came in 82, and they taught us, the 3 levels. You always keep everything you need to survive on you, then a bigger set on your LBE or LC or whatever the term is these days, and then a full set in your rucksack. So you got, a 3-tiered plan for being ready to do. So no matter what happens, even if you got to run away and drop everything, you got stuff on you to survive. So I apply the same principles to my life, to my teaching, to my book, to my students. And I say, guys, carry things on you every single day of life, wherever you go. I don't care if it's to a business meeting in a suit, or if it's to a concert with or a family picnic. In your car, you carry more. At your office, in your home, you have more, and make sure that it meets the timeline requirements of what you have considered to be your threats. So, I always tell people, be able to live in your own home without any other outside sustenance or support for 30 days. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it's your home. It's static. You can stockpile. Mm-hmm. The same thing in your office, maybe 7 days. The same thing in your car, maybe 3 days or 7 days, depending if you got a bigger car. I personally don't know why special ops guys drive sports cars, except if they're single. For most of us, I don't know about you, but my vehicle, man, it's got a fold-up boat in it, a fold-up bike in it. Mm-hmm. It's got everything I need for my family to live. If I pulled up to my house after a night at the movies with the family, mm-hmm. and the house is burnt to the ground, man, I could live out of the back of my car. I got shelter, I got shower, I got pots and pans and tables and chairs, food for a week, and water for a week, which is really underappreciated one because it's
I think that's what people forget the most. You'll see people that have crates of MREs in their house and no drinking water.
Yeah. And dude, man, and this is what I do for training. So to answer your question, I carry everything on me personally for 1 day, 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Everything in my car I recommend for 3 days, and your office for 3 days, mm-hmm. and then at your home for 7 to 30 days, depending on your finances, mm-hmm. And what your storage space is. But the main thing is, I tell people, have enough to take care of. If you got 5 kids, well, brother, you better have a lot more stuff in your car, a lot more stuff in your home. And if you're working with like 3 people, let's say you got a boss you don't like. Okay, so you can cut down on your MREs. You don't care. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying it jokingly, but the point is, it's like, and if you got dogs or cats, whatever, those are the things you got to consider. So what I always do with my family and what I teach my students is have 1 day a year where you say, okay, today we're not going to use anything. We're not going to use electricity. We're not going to use running water, and just sort of camp it in your own home and see what you need. Mm-hmm. That's when you start realizing, what are my water needs? How am I going to clean pots after cooking? What are we going to do with laundry as it builds up? Where are we going to put the trash, if there's no trash coming? That's a very underlooked one. And then, of course, waste, you can kind of handle that at home because you just pour water down a toilet, but gets back to the first one. You got to have enough water for that. Yeah. So those are the things that I tell people to think about. And then it just gets into preferences, what kind of knife do you like? What kind of bike do you like, or boat, or what kind of boots, or, and that I leave up to people to figure out for themselves. The main thing is to consider it and then have it. And then when you have it, test it. And so likewise, I always tell people, man, try camping out in your backyard once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I lose you? I heard a little weird.
No, I don't know what that is, but no, I'm still here.
Yeah, so if you camp out in your backyard, so there's no harm or foul, anything you need, you can go in the house, but you can start to build, okay, what do I need for my actual campsite for my family? That's the big one. Dudes, man, we'll lay on a rock in the snow and we'll be fine, but I can't say that for my kiddos, and that's where I say for the sheepdogs out there, man, really think about what your family would need and if you would be able to provide it for them. And I think once you start asking the questions, the answers start to become very apparent.
Yeah, and another thing that people need to think about too is, is there anybody in their family who is on a medication, has a medical requirement? Do you have a 2-week supply of that medication on hand at any given time?
Yeah, and I'm glad I was going to say that, but I was like, man, I'm talking to a doc, man. I was going to let him drop that in. So, yeah, you nailed it. And the other thing I tell folks is, okay, let's say something crazy happened and there was a total grid shutdown. I mean, the world's getting a little bit more intense that way. And so all those things, those prescriptions, what about your glasses and stuff like that, having spare backup glasses and all the other things that people need. So yeah, that's the medical one. And then the big one is, and I'm preaching to the choir talking to you, but being a former Delta paramedic and medical service officer is like, dude, people don't build real aid bags.
No.
Oh, I buy one of them kits. I got an aid kit. It's like, dude, have you opened that thing? It's like I got a Band-Aid and an aspirin in it.
Yeah,
You know?
it's got bacitracin, a pair of plastic tweezers. I mean, because I bought one to open it, and actually, what I ended up doing is the bag that it came in was actually quite handy. I ended up
Yeah.
making my own using their bag. But yeah,
Yes.
it was things like plastic tweezers, an eye shield, some bacitracin, some regular Band-Aids that might as well have had Barbie or Superman on them,
Yep.
and just generally a bunch of other crap.
Yeah, so I always tell people, get stuff, but try it. Take it out and practice it. And and I had two interesting experiences just on the trying out stuff. Because I was a commo guy and an intel guy before I did the officer thing, and so I was a geek, a total geek. I got my ham radio license and all that kind of stuff, which is another good thing we should hit on. But
Yeah.
I would buy whatever new stuff was coming out to try it out. And one time I bought some heat tabs. Civilian, and like, okay, these are great. And I got asked to do a show called Tactical to Practical for History Channel, and so the show was about talking about old military stuff, not about fire and survival. So I just used these heat tabs to get a quick fire going because it was in the jungle in Hawaii, and it's harder to get a fire in the tropics because of the humidity. And man, these little heat tabs would not burn with a lighter on them. And I was like, okay, so I had to go back to basics and make a fire the old way. And then once I got the fire going, I just left those in there to burn. And then we filmed for a few hours. And when we went to put the fire out, man, those damn heat tabs were still there, completely not burned.
Ooh.
And I was like, wow, now imagine if I had thrown that in my kit thinking I got fire licked. And then I found out the
Yeah.
hard mattered, they didn't work. So I tell everybody, try your stuff. Now, a funny thing is, I did a Go Ruck thing, and we did a little fire starting thing with about 30 people. And I was trying to start my fire, and I don't normally do fires with the magnesium bar. I normally do it with sticks. So starting fire with a mag bar, and man, Mike, I couldn't believe it. I could not get a fire going with a mag bar. And finally, persistence, it took me a few minutes, but we got it, and the fire was going. I was like, woohoo. And so as I went around to all the other guys who were, the students doing the Go Ruck thing, I found that half of them couldn't get a fire going. And so we started looking at the magnesium bars. And what we found was and this is sad, man, but the Chinese magnesium bars, they would light up in no time, one spark, done. Whereas it was the American ones that were not lighting. And I was flabbergasted because I never would have expected that. So it was a big, kind of embarrassing lesson to learn. But I tell people, every single thing you buy, don't keep it in a packet. Open it up and try it out, because some things do not work as advertised.
And I think the reason for that, I may be wrong on this, but I think the reason on that is the Chinese magnesium bars actually are just a chunk of magnesium. I think the American ones, I want to say it's nickel or something else that they have in there to make them a little bit more sturdy and last a little bit longer. But because of that, you don't get as many magnesium flakes with each strike. I think that's the reason. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to research that. But I'll tell you what I do is I am a fan. I carry a magnesium bar. I'm a big fan of it. And what I carry is my fire starting kit. The little the half Ziploc bags, the one that they say are like a snack bag, so they're not as tall.
Absolutely. Yep.
I carry one of those with cotton balls dipped in Vaseline.
Yeah, those are great.
Yeah, and those have never done me wrong. Even in the rain, I've been able to start a fire with those.
Yeah, absolutely. I carry what I call my little love kit for starting fires. So I have the cotton balls with a mag bar in a condom.
Yeah, no, that's great, because there's nothing more waterproof than a condom, because for liability purposes, they want that thing as impermeable as possible.
Yeah, that's
So
what I'm talking about.
not non-lubricated if you're going to use it to carry your cotton
not
balls,
lambskin,
preferably.
not lambskin.
Yeah, you don't need any spermicide on there. That would be optional. So for you on a typical day, so we talked about the levels, which is also how I approach it. What you can carry on your person in your pockets, what you can carry on a belt or a vest, what you can carry in a bag that's with you. And I do the same thing, especially when Tim and I are off shooting somewhere in Europe or South America. I'm approaching things the same way. So for me, I'll tell you, on my person in my cargo pockets at any given time, I've got a compass. I've got something to start a fire with. I've got a notepad and pencil. I have a tourniquet, because I never go anywhere without a tourniquet. And then I usually have, obviously, my ID and my cash. plus or minus a lot of times, depending on the environment. I tend to do this more in South America than I do in Europe. Is I'll have some type of filtration straw also on my person. So if something happened and the vehicles didn't work or whatever, and we had to walk out, that's what I have. What are you typically carrying in your pockets? If we were to shake you down for your EDC on and a knife, of course. What are you carrying everyday carry just in your pockets?
Okay, well, again, it's all about principles. So kind of exactly what you just said. I break it down to categories first so that then people can kind of cover down according to whatever their needs and capabilities are. So, there's always the four basic pillars, which are food, water, fire, and shelter. Okay. And then what I call the secondary tenets, which are, communications, navigation, medicine, and tools or knife, right? So I always carry, some sort of power bar and beef jerky on me. Always a bottle of water because I can also refill it.
Yep.
It gives me distance. I can boil water in it. So I try to get the thicker. I buy like the heavy duty plastic bottles just because they hold up a little bit better for multiple boilings if you got to boil the water. And I always carry some of those bleach tablets because, iodine's okay, but that stuff kind of deteriorates pretty quickly once you start opening them or carry them around. They kind of go bad. Whereas the bleach tablets just last for a long, long time, and it tastes a little better. Plus, I can also use it for cleaning wounds and stuff like that a little better.
It tastes. Not only does it taste better, but you bring up a really important point. Is the thing that people fail to realize, both with iodine and bleach, is if you can't taste it, you haven't put enough in.
There you go.
Yeah, because you should, no matter how many drops it tells you on that iodine, this is something that Butch Anderson taught me years ago and I've always gone by, is you add to taste. You should, if you can't just barely taste it, you have not put enough in.
Yeah, absolutely. And then people say, oh, what about cancer, this and the other? I said, brother, if you survived long enough to die from cancer,
you're a lucky man.
Good job. That's correct. So, so the food, the water, and then always a lighter, always a lighter, and then a backup, whether it's matches, mag bar, something like that. And then I always tell people, the underrated thing is shelter, So I carry a big heavy-duty trash bag, just folded up really, really tightly with a big heavy-duty rubber band on it. And, man, that thing makes a flotation device. It makes a shelter. It makes a rucksack. It just do so many things for you. So that's food, water, fire, and shelter on me at all times. And then always some sort of communication. So if it's your phone or if it's a signal mirror, in your case, it was the pen and paper, which is pretty handy. I always have a pen, too. I carry those little space pens because, man, if you double them up, man, they make for a great little kind of weapon for self-defense. Yep. And always a knife, but I always call it a tool, because, people want to say, oh, it's a weapon. It's like, no, it's a tool. When you're using it to survive, it's absolutely a tool. Of course, it doubles as a weapon, but, I'm not here to say that. Everybody with common sense knows that. And then, of course, the other thing, like you said, a compass, man. And I always try to keep two. So I get the layest compass apps on my phone, and I always have a good old-fashioned – I got a digital one on my watch and then a backup of an old-fashioned one. I wear a little key fob, and it's got a compass in it. So always something so that I can navigate. And then, of course, the first aid. So for me, I always have on my person a cravat folded up like a scarf. Because that makes a tourniquet, it makes a bandage, it makes a dressing. I can, do all kinds of things with it. I can cut it up for tinder. I use it for a little bundle bag, use it to filter water. So I'm a big fan of, like, there's 30-something uses for a scarf. And so I always carry one. But for me, primarily, that's my medical, my signal, my navigation, and my tools. So those are my secondary 4 tenets.
That's great, man. I'm jotting some notes over here too, because some of those things I do, some of them I don't. I am usually pretty good about the power bar or something like that, but my water is probably the biggest thing I could get separated from, because I do, especially when I'm traveling out and about. I have it in my backpack, and I try to never put my little backpack down, but there is the possibility that especially if what if the Jeep exploded or something like that and I got thrown far away from it, I could get separated from that. I mean, that's definitely conceivable. So I do need to look at keeping more stuff on my person.
There's a couple of counters to that. What you can do is, first of all, I just try to live with a bottle of water in my hand or in my reach. Okay. So that's just something that, because the backpack you'll often take off, especially when you're working or you're shooting or something like that. So, just having one that you can slide in your pocket or something like that. And if not, I always keep 3 of those little chlorine tablets in aluminum foil.
Mm-hmm.
I always keep that, so that goes in my pocket with my change every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's just there. So at least if I found some water, I'd have to improvise a container, but I could make it safe to drink.
And in the world in which we live, pretty much anywhere you're going to be, man has been there. And you're gonna find a landfill. You're gonna find something, and you're gonna for you and I, it would be a lot easier because we've done it before. I've dug in the trash, and so have you in survival situations.
Yep.
And people out there that haven't, you have to come to grips with you're going to dumpster dive, and somebody's old Copenhagen spit bottle is going to become your drinking vessel, and you're just going to have to rinse it out real good. But be prepared for that.
Yeah, and shoot, man, if I get a dumpster to dive in, I'm in paradise.
Oh yeah, you got everything's in there. I mean, there's food, clothing, shelter, water containers, probably some water, everything. That's one of the first things you learn in a survival situation is one man's trash is another man's treasure, and if you're in a survival situation, that's a big green stinky treasure chest right there in front of you.
That's it. Exactly. And so you're tracking. So so that's the EDC on the personal level. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, with a vehicle, you just amplify that up. I always have, like I said, I'm kind of retarded about it because, I mean, who the hell needs a fold-up bike? But if I get a flat or my engine blows or I'm way in a remote area, having a fold-up mountain bike, you can get out of there 4 times faster, and go 4 times longer with a bike than you can by foot, So I got that in the same thing. If I get in a situation, there's a flood or something, especially now that I'm in Florida, definitely in Louisiana, that was a big concern.
Sure.
You got the little the boat that will carry me and my wife and my son, and actually the little plug-in thing to the car and blow it up so I can inflate it real fast and get the hell out of Dodge. Mm-hmm. And of course, oars, that's the big thing. So we got these really nice compact oars that go with it. And then we got a waterproof bag that's kitted out for 3 days of survival for the 3 of us to just chuck in there. So in a pinch, we can go and have a good start. So those are the kinds of things. So for people like in the West Coast, I'd say, man, consider getting a fire blanket,
Mm-hmm.
Because hell, if you get caught in one of those crazy forest fires, that's the kind of thing. Or if you're in a place where there's flooding and landslides, maybe have some rope in the back so you can kind of climb to some high ground, those kinds of things. But everybody's got to figure out what their real threats are, and then conduct themselves accordingly. And then, of course, the biggest thing these days with those assholes, ISIS, running around, all the sheepdogs ought to be packing and ought to be training on how to put heat. And I like the old adage, man, if you can't put a hole in a forehead in 3 seconds, you're kind of wrong.
Yeah, that's and we're preaching that every week here on the Sheepdog Project, so that is definitely not new news to anybody who's listening to this. Is definitely the whole weapons aspect of it, what's on your person, what's in your vehicle, and being prepared to use it. Extremely an important part of being a sheepdog. How much water do you carry in your vehicle?
Oh, man, I always keep a full case. Always. And then I have another case that I use that I load all the doors every single day, usually twice a day, so that everybody in the car has at least 2 water bottles on their side at all times so they can grab it and go. And so that's my working case in the back. And then I have a fresh case that, whenever I buy a new case, that becomes the one that I'm using. So I'm constantly rotating stock. But basically 2 cases of water.
So you're talking about in the back, you're talking about a case of the regular hand size individual serving waters?
Yeah, 24 water bottles.
24 water bottles, okay. I approach it a little bit differently. I have volume-wise, I have about the same, but I'm carrying usually 3 or 4 jugs.
And that's fine. The only reason I'm going with the water bottles is because it allows, because remember, I got a woman and child, and the child's a 10-year-old, so I'm trying to think of things that they can carry, and I can disperse in different areas, and heaven forbid they lose a bottle or something, I'm not out of a complete jug. I've got others. So it just kind of serves my purposes a little bit better because I got younger kids. My other boys are full grown and got their own kids now. So, that's on them.
Right. And I don't do the bike. I think that's a great idea. What I do is I have a couple of different favorite sets of walking around boots that I know I can go long distances with. One of those is in my vehicle at all times. So if I'm somewhere wearing dress shoes or somewhere wearing flip-flops, whatever it might be, obviously if I'm stuck on Texas Tollway 130 somewhere, I don't want to be schlepping it north in flip-flops. So I've got a good pair of sturdy walking boots with a good thick pair of socks in there. I actually keep a whole change of clothes, just in
Yeah,
case. If I'm wearing a suit somewhere, I've got cargo. I've got everything from head to toe. A nice loose shirt that has some UV protection, cargo pants, a good pair of underwear, good thick socks, good pair of boots, and a ball cap.
right on. And yeah, I keep a go bag in the car, and I keep a go
As
bag
do I.
right by
Yeah.
my desk in my office in the house.
Yeah.
Because and it's got all that stuff in it, so I don't ever have to think about it. I don't have to carry it back and forth. If I ever have to run out of the house, like go grab the boy, or he spend the night or something like that, and something goes wrong, I've got a bag to go in my back, rucksack all the time.
Yeah, that's I've got two bags in the very. I have a Jeep Unlimited, so a four-door Jeep. Two in the back. One is the bag of the clothes that I can change into, and my first water jug to fill up my containers with. And then the other bag is my go bag. So I use I think we call them seal line bags for the clothes. So it's a big waterproof bag that just has a handle on it. And then I have a small rucksack that has all my other stuff and is basically a complete. Some people call it a bug out kit. I call it a get home kit.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it's not for me. It's not the bag I would necessarily want to head off into the hills with, although I could. Primarily, it's for me. I'm stuck somewhere. Infrastructure has fallen. Wife and the kids are stuck at home. I got to get back to them so that we
Yes.
can then load up from here. And I'm going to have to hoof it because the major arteries are clogged or my vehicle is incapacitated. So I'm throwing on the bag and I'm heading home.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I tell people in survival all the time. I said, your number one mission is to get home. That's what it's all about. Home is where everything is, and then if you've got to evacuate your home, that's an entirely different operation altogether.
Right. And most people, I don't think, realize if they ever had to walk from their place of business back to their house, I don't think it fully registers to them how far that is.
Yeah, well, and I'm the same, man. When I teach my students, I'm like, guys, do you know the route back to your house that's not by driving?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how to walk home? And do you know where your legs are going to be so that you can stop and sleep if it's going to take you 2 days? Or when people plan an egress from their home, what route are you going to go? What's your end destination? How long can you walk with your family carrying a bunch of stuff on your back? Where are going to be your water resupply points? All these type of things that people don't really start thinking about. They just say, yeah, we got bug out bags.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where are you going to bug out to, and how are you going to get there, and how long is it going to take?
And most people, I know a lot of people are fond of the GPS, and I am too, and everybody's got it on their phone. But if everything goes down, and if you're relying on the GPS on your phone and cell phone towers are down, do you have an old-fashioned paper map to back that up with? And a lot of people don't, and that's you can get regular road maps are fine. I think depending on your area of operation, getting a geo map of your area. If people don't know what that is, you can Google it. You can get those, which are a little bit better to work with. Some areas you can actually get the numbers and get honest to goodness 1/25 military maps of the area in which you're living, which is always a little bit easier because then you can figure out the quickest points between or quickest route between point A and point B. But yeah, I would not want to depend on the GPS on my cell phone if everything really went to shit.
No, and that brings up two good points because, yeah, I keep my vehicle stockpiled with maps and I always have topos, because that's what we're trained on as ground pounders. The fly boys, they're laughing at us, but it's like, yeah, wait till you're on the ground, Bubba.
Yeah, when you got to walk it, it's a little different.
So, I always tell people to get the topos or just get the national park maps. They're better than our topos just because they're a lot more detailed because they're a lot smaller areas, more blown up. Yeah. But I always tell people to get those. But the other thing I encourage folks to do is download apps on your phone that do not require the internet to work. Download good maps, download good, books on edible plants and first aid and language and translators and measurements, converters, and all those kinds of things that do not require the internet to work. That way, you still can make your phone a viable tool as long as you've got either the solar or hand crank rechargers to keep it as a good tool. Then,
and I'm glad you said that, because that was the next thing I was going to bring up. The power source.
Which is another thing. Like now we're getting into the real good stuff, like maps. And hey guys, what are you doing for your power supply? Do you have a backup generator in your vehicle? Do you have a backup battery? Do you have a solar panel that you could throw on your hood and charge your car battery back up? Those are important things that people often forget, but there's so much that we rely on that we take for granted, and we just never have to go without. So I can't tell you, I probably got, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 different solar panels that have gone obsolete because I've been doing this for 25 years. And so they go out of date, and then they get smaller and better and smaller and better. So about every 5 years, I got to update my stuff. And to be frank, I haven't used the other stuff except for practice and training, but I have it.
No, that's the way to go. You have to think of that. You're either going to have to carry some type of recharging capability and have nickel cadmium batteries or something that's rechargeable, or you're going to have to carry all those extra batteries, and you're going to have to figure in how often you're going to use that. And that's most people are carrying, that have bug out kits, that have go home survival kits, and I'm sure they have flashlights in there. But when was the last time you turned on that flashlight and in your garage or in your backyard, and you tried to do a night's work using it? And you're going to find out really quick that battery does not last as long as you think it does.
Yeah, and you just hit on another beautiful thing, because we hit on like the essentials, but flashlights, man, those things are important. And lashing and tarps, and what about pots and pans and cups and stuff to eat with and cook on, and something that you start looking at, okay, grills. And granted, if you're a survival guy, you can make all that stuff out there, pretty much anything, but those are things that are really super handy to have, especially for your family. And so that's why I say, man, I got the whole camping kit, the table, the chairs, the shelter, the awning, the little shower, all that stuff, because it does make a difference if you really got to do it. And then, also getting back to, I've owned probably 4 satellite phones in the last 15 years, because I buy one, I keep it, and then they come out with something smaller and better, and you pay the money just to have that emergency access.
Right.
And you don't use them because they're so expensive, but I pay to have them as a backup, because even if the local grid goes down or you get outside of cell phone range, the satellites can still be used.
Right.
And then getting into the real go to hell plan is how many people have CBs and ham radios?
Yeah, almost nobody anymore. And I'm actually looking at, it's funny you say that, because I was actually looking just in the last month about getting a CB to put in the Jeep and getting a home unit just to keep in the house. So, my wife knows if the node goes down, just walk upstairs, turn on the CB radio, and if I'm out and about somewhere, I'll know it too, and I'll turn it on, and we'll be on this channel, and we can communicate the plan.
Absolutely, as long as you're in the range and you got a generator to run the power, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another
really important generator, just a battery, so that you can run your CB or ham radio off of a DC current for at least a little while.
Yeah. No, you know what? I think if people that are listening, that if they've made their own kits, I think if they take nothing else away from this, the rehearsal aspect of it is the most important thing, and that's when you're going to find out that I neglected the combat spork. I've got food, I've got a cup, but I've got nothing to eat with. That's until you shake it down and do those rehearsals, you're not going to find out what you're missing, what you have too much of. And there's a ton of YouTube videos out there of people trying to give advice on a good bug out bag. And the biggest shortcoming that I always see is none of them are carrying enough water.
Yep.
And the biggest thing I see people are carrying too much of is, in my opinion, they're way overestimating how much ammo they're going to need.
Oh my goodness, man! And a soldier that's humped, a full combat load for a long distance plus everything else, absolutely knows the value of the weight of each round that you carry.
If you think you're going to need in a bug out situation, you're going to need some astronomical amount of ammunition, you need to realize you're just one person. If you are that outmatched, if you had to fire 210 rounds, your shit is so weak sauce to begin with. Either you're not hitting anything or you have gone up against somebody that you should have snuck around.
Yes.
So you don't need that much ammo. I saw one guy bragging about how he had 4 years in the National Guard and 10 years in law enforcement, and this is what I carry. And basically all he had was a ton of MREs and a ton of ammo. And that's it, and a lighter. He had nothing as a backup to make fire. He had nothing to cut wood. He had nothing to purify water. He had one small bottle of water. He had no shelter, like you said. And me, in my bag, even in my get home bag, I have a bivy sack. So I can use a bivy sack. If I get stuck in a driving hailstorm, I can curl up in that bivy sack, and I've got a kind of the modern version of the poncho liner along with it. I can hunker down in that, and for me, that's just fine. I'm not.
Yeah. Well, we all know the Ranger motto, travel light, face at night.
Well, that's it. And in my larger bag,
Yep.
in my larger bag, I do. I've got a ground cloth. I've got a poncho. I've got all the bungee cords, so I can make some type of shelter. But 90% of the people, it's their ammo and MREs is their whole bug out plan.
Yep. And I think you hit the nail on the head, which, in special ops, I mean, that's part of what sets us apart is how much we rehearse and train and go over, troubleshoot, and what if that. So if like you said, if they don't take anything away from this, guys, gals, please, once a year, do a shutoff day just for 24 hours. No power, no water, and just see what you need in your home. And then once a year, make it a fun thing with your family. Do a camp out at Fort Living Room weekend and see what you guys need as a family to live in your backyard. So if you had to leave your house, what are the things that you want? Because little things make a difference. Like, man, a pack of cards, that's a great little thing to keep the family bonding and tight and engaged and not letting the boredom and despair and worry creep in there. And if you make that pack of cards one of them survival edible plant kind of things or first aid things, now you're getting refreshing, retraining, rehearsal practice while you're sitting there playing a game. But that's what I suggest. Train, guys. Cut off the water once a year and go out there and camp in the backyard once a year and train your family what to do. What are your emergencies, man? I wake my kids up at 3 a.m. once a year and say, okay, it's a fire. What are you going to do? And I make them crawl out to the front yard, low crawl, carrying an 80-pound duffel bag like that's mom, unconscious. And one of them's got to, grab the phone and dial 911 blindfolded and go through the rigmarole of what's your address, what's going on, who's hurt. So, that's what I tell people is train yourself, practice, and train your family.
Train like you fight.
Amen.
More sweat and training, less blood in combat.
Right on.
Right on. All right, brother. I think that's a great point to end things on. I think we hit some amazing points. It was a pleasure having you on. I hope we can do it again. Definitely when Tim's here. Maybe I know we're going to get some emails after this and some social media hits. So we'll plan on doing a little bit deeper dive on some questions next time we have you on, if that sounds good.
Man, anytime, any place, anywhere. You know the deal.
All right, brother. So what do you got? Tell everybody what you got going on right now and where people can find you.
Oh, man, I got so much going on, but a lot of it just ain't good. I'm fighting bad guys and bad corporations. I'm going to leave it at that. But you can find me at michaelhawk.com or, Michael Hawk's Hawk's Hooch on Facebook. And that's pretty much about it, man.
All right, brother. Well, everybody check him out. I will have links to those sites in the show notes for this show. Make sure you check him out. This is an expert. People should be taking advantage of the knowledge that he has earned. I encourage you to do so. My brother, thank you so much. Look forward to having you on again. You take it easy, my friend.
All right, man. It's been an honor. Take care now.
All right, brother. Michael Hawk, everybody. Check him out on social media. Go to his webpage. Buy his books. Avail yourself of his expertise. Also, make sure you follow us on Facebook at Facebook/Sheepdog Response. Go to our website, sheepdogresponse.com. Buy your equipment at sheepdogstore.com. Follow Tim on @TimKennedyMMA on both Twitter and Instagram. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dr. Mike Simpson also. April 13th through 14th, coming up in Hurst, Texas, Sheepdog Response Defensive Tactics course with weapons. Tim will be there. The entire Sheepdog crew will be there. Go to our website, register, show up for the course, take advantage of this great training. I'm going to leave you today with a quote by Charles Darwin. Man can live about 40 days without food, about 3 days without water, about 8 minutes without air, but only for 1 second without hope. Don't lose hope, be in a survival mindset, and until next time, be a sheepdog.
You have been listening to the Sheepdog Project. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/sheepdog response. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the individual and do not represent any larger entity, public or private.